Hey, good morning. It's Playbook co-author Eugene Daniels. It is Wednesday, October 9th. My co-author Rachael Bade made a lot of people angry on
What?
Sunday when she wrote that Harris was still largely avoiding the media after the campaign had announced a big old blitz that included interviews on the Call Her Daddy podcast, 60 Minutes, The View, The Howard Stern Show, and last night, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. I'm not gonna lie, even I may call it a media blitz, a media run, a sprint to break it all down and duke it out. I've got
Duke it
Rachel
out.
Bade. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, I'm in the doghouse. Whoop.
In the doghouse. They got you on
It's
Twitter,
where I
girl.
belong. It's where I
So
belong.
you have this take on Sunday. It got quite a bit of blowback online. What's your take now? Couple days later, we've seen the blitz play out. Do you stand by
I like
your
how you're
take on
calling it a
Sunday?
blitz, and not a media blitz. I still contend it's not a media blitz. But before we get to that, I have to just tell our audience first and foremost that I am the newest member of Alex Cooper's Daddy Gang.
Y'all, this
Uh,
is for people that don't know Miss Rachel Bade. Rachel is not like a culture girl. Like Rachel loves politics. She likes some policy. She loves back and forth between politicians.
the power
So the
play, I'm
idea,
there.
power, the idea that Rachel Bade is obsessed with the podcasts, like Call Her Daddy, is the funniest thing that I've heard in a very long time. What is it about the podcast that is
Oh, it's so
speaking to
raunchy.
you?
But for real though, it is addressing like very blatantly a lot of challenges women have. But that aside, I absolutely contend that what I wrote on Sunday was right, and I stick to it for a couple of reasons, Eugene. Number one, this wasn't a media blitz by the traditional sense of that phrase. This wasn't a bunch of hard hitting reporters. It was a PR campaign. That's what it was, and that's what they should call it, a bunch of friendly interviews with folks who have very large audiences, by the way. And I'm
Other
not
than 60 Minutes.
I was going to say, other than 60 Minutes,
Yeah.
that's, and Bill Whitaker did a great job, by the way.
Yes. Fabulous
That
as always.
aside, I mean, there were points where, Whoopi Goldberg on The View was just totally fawning over Harris the whole time. It was absolutely hilarious. And, Howard Stern saying the sun is going to not come up if she loses. These are people who want her to win and want her to look good and who didn't, press her on, hard questions. So maybe that works. I mean, Eugene, you've done reporting on this.
Yeah.
This was a strategy that they wanted
Yeah.
to sort of turn out the base. I do
Yeah.
wonder, though, a lot of these viewers, women, young people, she's
Yeah.
already doing bonkers with them, bonkers numbers. And so the people who are on the fence, does it really move them? I don't know. I do think she really showed who she was in these interviews. And that
Yeah.
obviously is a huge plus because people want to
Right.
know the candidate they're voting for. But
They're still
it's
trying to get to
not a
know
media
her because
blitz.
we're
It's not a media blitz.
yeah. This is really interesting to me because I feel like over the last couple of cycles, but definitely this one, a lot has changed in kind of the language and what these campaigns look like. And so, like because you mentioned a media blitz in the traditional sense or the sense that we know of.
Right.
So is it that they're changing what a media blitz looks like, and that it isn't just because the way that this campaign and even in the White House, as they meet people where they are, when they put this kind of puzzle together of these different types of interviews, you have Stephen Colbert, who's like a politics person, but clearly a Democrat and is like that interview is not going to be tough, right? But it's a place to show that she laughs and she's like a jokester or whatever,
She's
right?
fun. Yeah, totally.
And you have the Howard Stern show in their eyes, that's men, right? Probably a lot of white men. So that's a
That
constituency.
was the probably exception to
That's the
this.
exception to the thing,
Yeah.
right? The View, women,
Mm-hmm.
um, 60 Minutes kind of adds some gravitas in their eyes. This is from
Absolutely.
folks that I've talked to on the campaign, as that like gravitas. She did a 60 Minutes. And also for people who don't know, the 60 Minutes interview is traditional that both candidates and both campaigns participate. So both Trump and Harris got this invitation. I think it was going to be in one episode, if not back-to-back episodes. Trump backed out.
He
They went
wanted
back
an
and forth about
apology or
why. He
something.
wanted
I
an
mean,
apology. The
yeah.
the 60 Minutes,
He
according to the
chickened out.
Trump
Let's be real. He
campaign,
chickened
right?
out.
He checked
Yeah.
out. The Trump campaign said that 60 Minutes wanted to do fact checking while Trump was talking, which is no,
Generally what journalists
generally
do.
what
Hello.
you do while it happens. They said it never happened. That was they backed out. So she also has this. You have the gravitas along with like I stepped out and did the big scary interview, and it seemed to have gone well.
I'll just note here that, you mentioned Trump. not doing, this 60 minutes interview. It's not like the Trump campaign is doing a lot of traditional media right now either. We have to say that they were. Vance has done a ton of interviews with mainstream media. I will say this week I was really
And these
pushing
kind of press conferences that he
press
does
conferences,
during the rallies,
access.
it's
Yep.
very confusing
Yeah.
but he takes questions from reporters during his rallies.
Right, of course. But I do feel like they're even locking down now. And
Yeah.
one of the things I heard from a Harris person when I was writing this, and frankly arguing with them driving my kid to a pumpkin patch on Sunday, was that the closer we get to an election, the more campaigns just sort of lock down on what are the hits they're going to do. They're going to do the safer ones. They pointed at Trump, and Trump has been doing a ton of friendly interviews. I've been trying to get JD Vance to do deep dive or something like that. Frankly, they don't like our coverage and are not, engaging, which is BS in my opinion, obviously. But like they're doing the same thing right now. But there was a time when the Trump campaign was doing more of this stuff. And for Harris, given that, she was put atop the ticket recently, there really wasn't ever a time when she was sort of exposed to regular questioning from reporters. So they've sort of pivoted pretty quickly to the safe ground. Again, exception being 60 minutes here.
Right. And I mean, and the thing about Trump is like Trump has always done kind of friendly interviews, right? Like I can't remember the last time he sat down with not just 60 minutes, but like someone from CNN, a print reporter who is a little bit tougher, right? That's not how he's done. But on Call Her Daddy, these are the numbers from Edison Research: 70% women, 76% under 35, 93% under 45. 48% Democrat, 24% Republican, 20% Independent, 34% live in the South, 24% West, 22% Northeast, and 20% Midwest. And I mean, the thing that's really interesting is that Cooper used to work for Barstool Sports, and the campaign says that with all of the stuff she's doing this week, and she has this Univision town hall tomorrow, that all told, it's like 20 million voters who will have heard from Harris in some way, shape, or form. So the question of like whether or not it works is one, but it's definitely out there and in everyone's face. So it is a test of a new theory of what a media blitz is. So,
or even just a few months ago, can you imagine Joe Biden doing any of these?
No. I want to get into kind of the substance of these kind of interviews as we've seen them. As you've seen them, as you've been watching, I'm curious what you think her strongest moments are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the strongest moments were the softer moments, the kind of silly things. Honestly, voters tend to vote, with their gut for who they like the best. Who do they relate to the best? And I think that the Kamala Harris we've seen over the past 48 hours has been someone who resonates with a lot of voters. Even just talking about her regular workout routine and riding the elliptical, watching Morning Joe, her cereal preferences, her music preferences, her favorite race car driver. Not things you and I would be asking her in an interview, but this makes her seem like a real person to a lot of voters out there. I also think that on the Call Her Daddy podcast, when she talked and gave advice to women who have been through, various forms of sexual trauma or sexual assault, that was just like a very sort of deep and moving moment. And she wasn't necessarily speaking from like a policy position on that. It was more from her experience as a prosecutor who has gone after people who have participated in these heinous crimes against, young women. And so I thought that was powerful. I thought, on The View, when she talked about her new healthcare proposal, basically allowing Medicare to cover in-home healthcare for people who are, taking care of a sick family or elderly family member while having young children and trying to keep a job.
Yeah, she calls it the sandwich generation. Like you're taking care of a parent and you're taking care of a kid at the same time. You're kind of stuck in the middle here.
And by the way, she related to that. And like, we've heard her talk about how she took care of her mom when she was going through cancer, but these aren't like policy questions. And again, like this goes back to like those swing voters. Is this what they want to hear? Like, I'm not convinced that it necessarily is, Eugene, but maybe if people are sort of on the margins and they end up liking her more from sort of the Kamala Harris that they saw over the past 48 hours, then, maybe it helps. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I find interesting, one was she keeps talking about this gun. And
Oh,
finally
the
she said what
Glock.
kind of got Glock. I got a Glock now. The
I got
internet
a
called it
Glock.
Glocktober. It's Glocktober. She talked about basically like being proud of being like someone who has worked in law enforcement, like which is really different than how Democrats have run before, right? And so that is a direct appeal to these kind of voters that you're talking about. I don't know whether or not they're going to see it, right? If you say it on The View or 60 Minutes, but like the people who are kind of middle of the road, who are worried about crime, but she's speaking to that, right? And she's kind of
Yeah.
letting them know, like, oh, I'm not like some simp over here. I will shoot you if I need to, which is also what she said on Oprah a few weeks back.
Yeah, she literally said, I have put a lot of people in jail or something.
Yeah,
Like it was almost
yeah.
like a
Which is
boasting
not
statement.
it's not how she would exactly. It's not
Yeah.
how she ran in 2019. I will say when I talked to some black advocates and activists and even political strategists, they're not certain if that's going to work with some black voters, right? Because because of the disproportionate impact on black people in the criminal justice system. She's testing that theory too, whether or not that's something they want to hear. What do you think? Have you seen? I have one missed opportunities and missteps that she has done in these meetings. I'm thinking about in The View
Yeah.
when they asked her, "What would you do differently than Joe Biden?" And she kind of said that she basically said nothing. But then, like 20 minutes
There is not a
later,
thing that
there's
comes
not
to
a
mind.
thing, not a thing
That
that
was
comes
the
to mind.
quote.
Also, this is a question that they knew she was going to get because people have been asking her that for a long time. And it's
How do
very
you distinguish
obvious.
yourself?
How do you
Right.
distinguish yourself? And so, but then she comes back to it. She says the difference is I'll have a Republican in my cabinet, which is not the same, but it is her trying to figure out how to answer that question without and make sure that she can walk into the Oval Office tomorrow and not have any awkward moments. And so, I mean, I think that is probably a missed opportunity. They have to figure out a way to answer that question. I mean, the easiest one that even comes to mind for me is like child tax credit. I would fight harder for the child tax credit. It's already a part of her economic plan. We know from reporting that I've done and others that's what she really wanted that, and she helped to put that in that bill when they did it. And so like just do that. It was very obvious Biden let
Right.
it
And
go.
all
She
these other
didn't keep fighting for
proposals,
it.
she's
Yeah.
put forward a bunch. She could say,
Yeah.
I would have
I
done
would
this,
do
I would have
this.
done that, but I can't. I'm,
Right.
the number two. And by the way, Eugene, when she came back to clarify, oh, that the thing that would distinguish me is I'd put a
Yeah.
Republican in my cabinet.
Yeah.
That was like probably 10 minutes later, which to me sort of says this was in the back of her mind. No, I agree. I think that moment was not great. And by the way, JD Vance is already talking about that on the campaign trail. Republicans
Okay.
are just loving that
Yeah.
moment. But I actually think that in the 60 Minutes interview, which I think, compared to like a lot of the projections or predictions of how Harris would do in various one-on-one interviews with hardball reporters,
Yeah.
people always say like, she stutters and she stumbles and she
Yeah.
doesn't do, a very good job in terms of articulating herself. I thought she did. But I thought that there were also a few moments where she looked kind of defensive
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Bill Whitaker, and kudos to him. I mean, he pressed her on a number of things, like how is she going to pay for her plan, the cost of her plan, according to bipartisan or nonpartisan fiscal think tanks, the flip flop on various policy things, why her and Biden didn't address the border issue sooner. And she fired back, but she seemed kind of defensive on those things. So for me, that was sort of a moment where I was like, I'm not sure that this is gonna cut it for some people.
Once the blitz is over, we'll
The
see.
blitz,
All right,
not the media blitz, the PR blitz. Call it a PR blitz. Damn it.
So it's the name that bothered Rachel, you guys, on the Harris campaign. It
Media
was
blitz
simply the
means
name. It was simply the name. All right. We'll have to end it there. Rachel will accept all of your beef on the internet and in her email as you have it. Rachel,
By the
thank you,
way,
thank you.
if they
Yeah,
want to come do a media blitz with us slash
we are
sit
open.
down, we'll take
We're
the sit down.
open. We'll
Yeah.
take it. We'll
Yeah.
take it. We love a media blitz here. All right. We will have to end it there for today. Thanks, Rachel.
See you
Stay out of
around.
trouble. Stay out of trouble.
I'm always in trouble, Eugene.
Always in trouble. Always in trouble. For more of our thoughts on this and whatever else you might need to know today, read Playbook this morning at politico.com/playbook.